Okay, some of the next set of things I'm going to show you how to do is some furniture and some buildings. And, there's, and then maybe even some of these like Torii gates that are in the model here. So let's go back to Rhino. Okay, now we have all of this stuff. Let's just start by tracing some of these, the seating here. These are boulders that are used as seating. It's really simple. Let's just start by tracing that. So let's start with curve, or actually let's start with polyline for this. Let's make it very kind of sharp because they're boulders. So we'll use polyline versus curve. And like AutoCAD, if you want to just finish drawing a shape, but you don't want to have to like click on the first point you started, or you're not sure you can find that first point, just type in CL as you're drawing your polyline and hit enter, and that closes the shape. So let's just go into shaded mode so we can see the line. Here's my line. Again, sometimes you might not be able to see the lines you create in rendered mode, and if you can't, it's a feature you can turn on and off, or you can just go into shaded mode or wireframe mode and see that line. Okay, anyway, now we have the shape that outlines the bench, and let's just type in extrude curve. This time we're extrude curve, hit enter, and this seat is probably, let's say, like 40 centimeters high. I don't know how tall it actually is. Maybe they're 50. That's okay. But I typed in 0.4, hit enter, and there we go. Now I have my seat, and I go back into rendered, and I see that seat's there. Really simple, right? I just traced it and extruded it. Let's do it one more time again to really hammer in the point. Let's type in polyline. Let's start tracing this shape kind of freely. Type in CL to close the line. Go back into shaded so I can see the line. And then I'm going to select the curve, and I'm going to type in extrude surface, sorry, extrude curve, right? Because I'm just extruding the curves. Hit enter. And then if I uncheck solid in here, so see my command line how it has solid, and by default you might have solid unchecked, and if you bring this up to 40 centimeters and hit enter, you'll notice that your shape is hollow. You want to cap that shape off. So you can do that by checking solid in the command line, or after you're here, you can also just type in cap to that shape, and that brings a cap for that shape. Just like that. It's really easy. Let's go back to rendered and see what we just drew. Really straightforward. Right? Okay, so those are two really easy furnishing elements or seating elements that you can draw in your diagram here. Let's also just do some lighting really quickly. Let's just find a place and put a light. For lighting, I like to just keep it really simple. And I'm just going to draw a simple cylinder with a ball on top. So I'm going to just type in cylinder, put the base of cylinder here. With the cylinder, let's make this 10 centimeters, so 0.1 of a meter, hit enter. Height of the cylinder, well, this is probably 3 meters high, so 3, enter. There's my lamp post. And then I can type in sphere now if I just want to put a circle on top. And I probably want to make this sphere maybe 20 centimeters wide, maybe let's just say 28 centimeters wide. There it is. And you can see it's not perfectly aligned with my post. So I'll go into top view. I'll find that sphere, zoom in, and I'll just kind of line it up with it. And maybe the gumball will help you move it perfectly in place. you know, if you want to see through everything, maybe wireframe will help you move it in place. Right. And then we'll go back into perspective view and we'll see that it's all there. And you can just group everything now. So select everything you want to group and just type in group. There you go. Now they're all together, and you can multiply these by holding down Shift, or sorry, holding down Alt and dragging on the grid. Really simple. So now we have lights. And, you know, put them wherever you think the lights are. Okay, so lights, chairs. What if you want to do a more complicated chair now? Like, what if you want to do a chair that kind of looks like this with a back and sides? Or what if you want to do a chair that has 4 legs? Whoops, sorry, wrong program. Let's start drawing some of those chairs. Okay, so I'm just gonna use the grid here to start drawing my shapes, and I'm basically just gonna start in top view. I'm gonna draw an outline for a chair. I'm gonna extrude it, and I'm going to carve away at it to make 4 legs. So, you know, maybe it sounds a little confusing, but you'll see it when as I'm drawing it, and you'll see how simple this actually can be. So I'm going to use polyline to start drawing the outline of the chair. And I'll use my grid to help keep things controlled. I'm just going to draw the outline of the chair here. It's going to be like that. See, that kind of looks like a chair, right? An outline, the side view of the chair. And if I go back into perspective and then shaded view, so I can just see the lines of my chair. And it's really big right now, but I'll scale it down. I'm going to type in extrude curve. And I'm going to just pull this chair out of the earth. Let's just pull it up to there. And again, type in cap to close off that shape. So now a couple things need to happen. 1, I need to scale it down. 2, I need to carve out the legs. And 3, I need to rotate it. Let's start with the easiest step, which is rotating it. So again, I'll use the gumball and I'll use the red tool and I'll hold down Shift because that fixes how I rotate it. So there's my chair. And I'm going to now create a shape. So that I can carve that shape out of the legs. So I basically want to just carve out the legs now. I'm going to create another cube. Or box, right? Let's create a box. Let's draw the box from here to here. And from there to there. So now I have this box. I'm going to increase the box's width by dragging on the red dot and the gumball. Did you see how I did that? See the red dot here? I'm just dragging it and that increases the ball's width. And now I'm going to carve this box out of this chair. And I'm going to use something called Boolean difference. So I'm going to type in Boolean difference into the command line, and you'll see Boolean difference says select surface or poly surfaces to subtract from. I want to subtract from the chair. So I select the chair, I hit enter. Select surfaces or poly surfaces to subtract with. I'm going to subtract with the cube I just created. So I'm going to highlight the cube now and press enter. And you see it says delete input. I want to have that checked so that both things that are input are deleted. Hit enter. There you go. I have my chair now. And now, of course, this chair is massive. You don't want a chair like that. So you're just going to scale it down to the size you want and need, and just kind of put it into your drawing where it belongs. And again, it's in 3D, so it's kind of hard to manipulate. And that's where, you know, maybe top view will help you put it in the right place. Maybe front view will help you put it in the right place. And you go back into perspective and you see, you know, you see where your chair is. It's roughly in the right place. Anyway, that's that. That's how you do a chair. And now I'm going to show you how to do buildings. And buildings use the exact same techniques that I used to build the chair. I'll use polyline, I'll draw the building in the ground, and I'll extrude the curves. And then I'll use Boolean difference to start carving away at the buildings. So really simple. Let's just start doing that. Let's just type in polyline. I draw my little buildings here. Let's just draw a house. Great. Now I'm going to type in extrude curve, hit enter, and I specify. And again, let's make this solid now, so I don't have to type in cap, right? So now you can see there's a line, a solid line being drawn there. So there's my building, and I'm going to rotate it so it's in the right place. Whoops. There we go. Now I have my building, right? Let me just put it down a little bit so it's on the ground plane. Perfect. Now with this building, if I want to carve out some windows or doors, I can do that really easily, again, by just typing box, specifying where I want my door to be. Right, so I used box, I drew that in. There it is. You see the box I just drew in. Now I type in Boolean difference. Select, and again, I just follow the prompts that it asks me to follow here. Select surface or poly surfaces to subtract from. I'm subtracting from this surface. Hit enter, select poly surfaces to subtract with. I'm subtracting with this. I hit enter. There we go. There's my building without a door. And then I just go to rendered and I see that there. Okay, so now we haven't really been using layers. I'm just gonna start organizing things by layers just so you can see how quickly you can start like adding materials and organizing things, just using your layers, right? So okay, we have let's make one trees. Great, we have trees. Let's make one furniture. And let's make the furniture like a light blue color, really simple light blue color, kind of like that. Okay, so now as I start adding the furnishings, I'm just selecting all my furnishings, and they're in the tree layer right now, but if I put them in the furniture layer, then they're all kind of that light blue color, right? So really, really simple. Maybe I want another layer for buildings. I put this layer in the building layer. And then maybe I make my building like maybe a gray color. So I'll just choose a dark gray, apply, and then my building's that gray color. Again, be very, very careful with how you use colors. But the cool thing about now working in your layers, if I draw another building, and here this dark gray color is bothering me, so I'm gonna make it a light gray color. If you start drawing buildings in your building layer, because it's already specified as gray, it should be gray, but you see how it actually wasn't gray, because I had my blue dot in trees here. I need to move my blue dot in buildings. Okay, let's delete this. Now, if I draw a building, it'll be gray because my default drawing layer is now the buildings layer. Whereas if I want to draw in furniture, I'll click furniture here and I'll draw something that I want for furniture and see how it's green. So if you want to stay organized with your material palette, draw in the right layers to begin with. And Rhino, through this blue dot system, makes it really easy to specify which layer you want to draw in. Okay. And then just to re-illustrate my point too, is if you want to do windows on this building here, just take a block and any block you want, put it where you want to subtract from in this building. You know, we want to subtract this, right? And then just use Boolean difference. I don't want to subtract too far into the building. I just want to take that out. So I type in Boolean difference, select surfaces to subtract from, subtracting from this, enter, select surfaces to subtract with, this, hit enter, and there we go. I've carved out of that building. Okay, so now I know you guys have like the AutoCAD file, right? For the surrounding buildings. And maybe there's some line work there. You can import your drawing into here and have the line work already and start extracting it for some of those buildings. You get the actual building footprints around the site. But just remember that your site is about the park itself and not the buildings. So don't make your buildings too ornate and detailed. They're more just like massing to show the scale kind of around the park. And then while we're here, let's draw the rock. This is a fun one because it's more of like a free form shape. And it's kind of up to you how you want to draw it. I'm going to draw it a little more simple than the like roughly how to do that. I didn't rehearse for this, so let's see how it goes. Let's just type in array. Hit enter. Number of windows in the X direction. Let's say 2. Number of windows in the Y direction. Let's say 5. Hit enter. Number in the Z direction 1. Hit enter. Let's try that again. Array. Okay, here's my reference point. I click it and I do that and I hit enter. So you have to hit enter again. So you can use arrays to multiply things. You just have to get the settings right in array. So let's do that again and try and get the settings right. So this time it had 5 in this direction, and it had 2 in this direction and none in this direction, in the Z direction, right? So let's try that again. And let's just make the shape a little smaller. Okay, let's type in array. 2 in the X direction, that was right. Number in the Y direction, 1. Number in the Z direction, let's do 4. Hit enter. Specify my first point. Specify the second point. Oops, let's try it again. As I'm using commands I don't typically use often, there's a lot of trial and error. Specify number in the Z direction. Let's just start with 3, enter. Okay, and see how they're just pink? They're not drawn out yet, and the array command is still open. Just press enter. And then you have them there. And then you can multi-select them, right? Highlight them. Put them where you want to put them. And maybe let's turn grid snap off so we can freely put these wherever we want, which is there. Okay, great. And now let's type in, it looks kind of funny right now, it looks like Lego. Let's type in Boolean difference. Select surfaces you want to subtract from this. Select surfaces you want to subtract with. These. I'm multi-selecting these, enter, and there you go. So you can do that, and you can also use that array trick to multiply these trees out to cover large areas too. And just play with array and follow the prompts in the command line, because you'll be able to really understand how to use that command as you start using it. Again, these are just like, see, even me, I like have to like think about everything as I'm doing it. So you'll all get there though. Okay, anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Okay, let's do the rock. Let's start by tracing it. And then we'll start to draw it out in 3D and start to get at some of the volumes. I'm going to make this rock a little bit simpler than it actually is in real life, or in this drawing. So let's start with polyline. And as you can see, almost everything that I'm drawing into Rhino is starting with like basic 2D line work, right? And then I'm bringing it into 3D. 2D helps me like control the early shapes of what I'm drawing before I bring it into 3D. And again, I can type in CL to close the shape. And let's go back into shaded mode so I can see my line, see it there in light purple. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the inside shape here of the boulder, because the boulder has a slightly flat top. So I'm going to trace that with polyline. Just going to draw roughly the inside shape. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than it actually is. CL to close. And then I'm going to go, I'm in perspective already. Let me actually go into wireframe. Okay, I'm in wireframe. Let's stay in perspective, in shaded then. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lift this up so that you can see it's kind of floating to the top, right? And I'm going to basically just draw lines down from the top to the bottom, and those are going to be my lines around the boulder. And if you're a little bit, if you're a little bit lost, I'm basically just trying to do this. And I have like a flat top for the boulder, and then I have a flat bottom against the ground. Let's take this base map and let's put it into a different layer, base map. And the reason I want to do that is because it's quite noisy now. I want it to be out of my way. Put in base map layer, turn the base map layer off. And basically now I just want to draw shapes in here. And I want a flat top, so I can use a tool called patch. And what that's going to do is going to create a surface within that line I have, and it helps to have closed lines. It makes more clean patches and in a closed polyline. I'm not going to do that for the bottom. I'm going to keep it open for now, just so I can see a little bit better. But I'm going to use this tool called, let's see, I'm going to use surface from 2 or 3 corner points, from 3 or 4 corner points. And then I'm going to just draw surfaces between lines on the map. See that? And it didn't quite get it, so I'm going to turn points on. I see that point, and I'm going to drag it down to the proper point there. Okay, I'm gonna keep using surface point. I'm gonna go from here to here to here to here. That's that surface point. I'm gonna do that again. And again, Rhino remembers the last command it had in the command line, so just press spacebar. So I can go from surface point from there to there to there to there. Let's just do a few more just to illustrate what's possible. driving there, to there, to there, to there. Let's do 2 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 more. 1, 2. Sounds like we're doing a dance routine or something. Okay. And then let's go into rendered, and you can start to see some of the lines for that shape. And depending on the light and the shadows and the refinement of the rock, you can actually see some of the shapes in the rock. So I encourage you just to like use that way to easily and draw that rock and to create some of that volume for that rock, because it's a big defining feature in the park. Okay, so yeah, you can definitely do that for the rock. I like my rock to have really clean lines, because the curves are really beautiful, but in the rock I want to see the edges, and the light catches the edges, right? Which is why I showed it with the clean lines. But here you can definitely use rebuild, and I'm going to show you how to do that again really quickly. Just go into sphere, or type it in the command line, draw your sphere wherever you want, and again you can pull the sphere out to make oval shapes or whatever shape you want, and just type in rebuild. Specify the number of points you want, points on. You can also just type in P on and P off if you're lazy or you're efficient, and it does the same thing as points on and points off. And then you can manipulate this shape however you want. And points on helps you really carve out space, right? So if you're really inspired by like Henry Moore, and you really like his work, and you want to create like sculptures, you can easily do that by carving in into your shapes in Rhino through rebuild and points on and off. So the possibilities are kind of endless there. For now, let's just delete that. And let's move on to doing some contours. Let's bring the base map back up. Contours, let's also go into Miro and just look here. I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to show you contours like this so you can create steps. But the same approach also works with if you have your contour elevations in AutoCAD. Let me just zoom out down here. You can create a landscape in Rhino basically by taking your AutoCAD contours, lifting up to the right elevation in AutoCAD, and using a tool called Patch to then draw out a landscape based on those contours. It's really straightforward, and there's tons of YouTube tutorials on it. So that's a possibility too. But for now, let's stick to doing really simple contours like you see in here. And let's go into shaded so it's a little bit easier to draw. Okay, so with contours, I'll start with, let's just draw a rectangle. All right, and let's keep grid snap on, and let's just like create this like bounding area for where I want to do the contours, just to keep everything like really clean. And then I'm going to turn on polyline. Actually, let's use curve for this. And I'm just going to draw these like really simple curved shapes throughout that I'm going to base my contours off of. I select the curves now, and I can type in offset. So like in AutoCAD, you can use the offset tool and specify how far you want to offset the new line from the old line. And depending on which side of the line your mouse is on, you can control where your offset line is going to go. And you can also just type in the distance, how far away you want it from your first line. And I want it about 0.5 meters from my first line. So I can do that. And I hit enter again or spacebar, and it brings up the same command, right? Because it remembers what the last command was. I select another line, hit end spacebar, and do it again and again and again. And I just have my like equal contour lines. If you want them to be equal, and equal contour lines are great for things like stairs, right? Because in a landscape, usually stairs are equally spaced, equal heights. But if you have a landform, your contours aren't going to be equally spaced like this. So maybe offset isn't the right tool. Maybe you'll need to like manually draw or trace the contours in. The next thing I'll show you how to do is if some of these like lines along the outside are bothering you, or if they're just noise in your drawing, you can also trim them off. So I have my bounding box line selected. I'm going to type in trim. And then I'm just going to select all of these lines that are on the outside. Trim. So now I have like a really clean drawing. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in planar surface. And what that's going to do is create a surface between my bounding box, right? Which is going to help me like extrude some of these surfaces, because I'm going to use that tool next. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the command split. And I'm going to split this surface by all of these lines. Hit enter. So now each of these are a surface. So that's a surface, that's a surface, that's a surface, that's a surface. They're all surfaces. Okay. Now, next thing I'm going to do is extrude surfaces. So let's start here with this surface. That's my first step. So I'm going to type in extrude surface. Here it is. Hit enter. And I'm going to pull this surface up by 0.5 meters. Hit enter. And yeah, it was capped already, so I didn't need to cap it. Find my next one. Type in extrude surface. Hit enter, and this one is going up by 1 meter because the last one was 0.5. Each of these I want to increment by 1 meter. Hit enter because that's going to bring up the last command. And I'm going to bring this up by 1.5 now. And then let's actually go into the rendered view so you can see how it's all shaping up. Right? Pretty cool. So there's my next surface that I want to bring up. So I'm going to just hit enter or type in extrude surface if it doesn't remember my last one, and bring that up by 2 meters. I find my next line, hit enter, and bring that up by 2.5. And again, I'm just typing this straight into the command line. Do it again, hit enter, and bring this up by 3, hit enter. There it is. And then last one here, I'm clicking on this surface that's remaining, the last remaining surface. Hit enter because my last command was extrude surface, and I just type in 3.5. Enter. So now I have this like landform that's based on like 1.5 or 0.5 meter contour intervals. And you can use this for things like stairs in your work. So that's that. Are there more questions?
Any more questions?
And I'm gonna put a drape over this landform here. So I'm going to top view. I'm going to just type in drape, hit enter, and then I'm going to just like drag a window over the area I want to drape. And if I go back into perspective, you can see that it's kind of draped. So it's kind of like a waterfall effect right now, just based on the settings that I have on the drape. But you can play with some of the settings to make it a little bit more smooth. And the reason that I went to the top view to do drape was because if I just drew a box over this, it would throw the drape down from the angle I'm at, which means it wouldn't land perfectly above the landform. So just be cognizant of that. I'd always suggest doing drapes from the top. Let's play around with it a little bit more though. Let's delete that drape, type in drape again. Hit enter, drag a window, spacing. Let's increase the spacing to like 20 and see what happens. And then go to perspective. So that makes it softer. So you can do it a couple more ways. Try. Let's delete that and try again. Let's go to the top and type in drape. Okay, let's make this 50 and see what happens. Hit enter and then go back to your perspective and see. And then you can also just move that off. Right? So then there's kind of your landform. And if something's wrong, you can manually edit by saying points on. Point on. Find where that point is. Right? That control point is all the way down there. Just bring it up. I brought it too far up, you can kind of bring it back down. So you can do it like that. Points off. Kind of makes sense. Just play with the drape settings. That's one way to do it. And then another way to do it is actually like having the contour lines. I find it works best if the contours are closed and not open like this. For open contours, I suggest using drape. And then you see the sides here. If you want to get rid of those sides, I'd suggest kind of just using a cube, right? Specifying your area. And just like clipping your surface by that cube. So I'm just gonna like shrink down the cube to a certain area. And I'm gonna just type in split. Select cutting objects. This is my cutting object, hit enter. And then I can delete that. I can delete this. Oh, and then I need to cut this surface, right? So I want to cut this surface by my cutting surface here. So I type split. Select cutting objects. This is my cutting object. Hit enter. And then I can just delete the side. And now I have clean lines on this line form. I hope that wasn't too complex. You can always like watch things again, but these are all tools that I've already showed you how to do and use, right? Like split. So it shouldn't be too bad. Because I have a component down here that covers that. So if I want to bring up an AutoCAD file, and AutoCAD files are typically DWGs, I can just type in import and bring it in and scale it. So let's try doing that. Let's start with a new Illustrator file. Type in import. Find the drawing I want to import. I unfortunately didn't come prepared to do this, so I have to kind of look in my past drawings and see what drawings we have there. See if we have any DWG files. In Scott's class, I had a DWG file. Here we go. Paved Paradise. Let's see if there's another one. DWG file, rooftop, DWG file. Okay, this one's a smaller file. Open that. There's some parameters here. I tend to leave it like this for now, at least the first time I do it. Hit enter. And then just zoom in. There should be way more than that to this DWG file. But that's okay. Pretend like this file is just complete as is. You can bring in your line work that way. And the other thing that it does is that your line work, if you bring it in from AutoCAD, is it saves the layering system. So you have your layers in here automatically already. So that's great. And I don't know if you guys have heard this already yet, but when you do AutoCAD drawings and Rhino drawings, like try and keep L dash in front of your layers, because when they bring in work from like architects, they'll have A dash. So L signifies landscape, A signifies architecture, and there's a few other terms and prefixes that are used. So in practice, each of your firms will have their own kind of format for saving net layers. And this is just what Scott had us do in his AutoCAD class. Okay, so that's how you get AutoCAD line work in. For Illustrator line work, let's delete AutoCAD. Let's go to import. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can import it. Let's find a map here that was done in Illustrator. Here we go. Whoops. You can specify the pages. There's just parameters you can follow. Let's just do all. Follow all this stuff, read it, preserve units. Tend not to preserve units because what I do in Illustrator is not typically in the right scale. Import as boundary curves. Again, you can play with these options and hit import and just like zoom out to see what you have. Yeah, text is typically an issue when you import from Illustrator. So there's a few different options. There's also insert you can use, and insert. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways you can do it, but the simpler your formatting is, the better. And I do suggest sometimes, and I'll give you a warning, because like sometimes importing Illustrator line work doesn't work if it's too complicated. Like again, like I showed you, if there's text, remove that text before you bring an Illustrator file in, and then bring the line work in that way. Does that make sense?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.